Hey guys, thanks for stopping in. I'm hoping you've had the chance to check out my welcome video where I explain my channel and the different playlists within it. Today I'm going to make my first stock video and I'm going to talk about the TFSA that both my wife and I hold respectively. We're invested in a number of the same companies with a few exceptions that one holds that the other doesn't. Our investing strategy, given that we're in our mid-50s, is dividend payers with potentially some growth so that we can reinvest those dividends, purchasing more shares of various stocks, and one day being able to use that as an income vehicle when we're in our retirement. The first stock, if you look at 12 o'clock, the light blue shaded stock is Cielo Waste Management System. I often refer to Cielo as potentially my greatest mistake, but potentially my greatest investment. Cielo's business model is to take garbage that you would normally find in dumps, with the exception of a few items, and turning that garbage into biodiesel. They've proven the concept, and they've been able to actually sell some of their product. The problem they're having is producing it at mass scale to be able to bring to market. The hope with Cielo is that they're going to be able to do that before they run out of money. The next company is one of those companies that I do have a lot more faith in, as they've proven their sales capability and they've proven their value within the market. Savaria Systems is a company based out of Quebec, Canada, that sell medical devices to the aging population. Savaria has made an acquisition within the last year or two, but they have also been able to capitalize on a growing need within the market, as the aging population in Canada is anticipated to be growing exponentially within the next number of years. Sierra pays a small dividend, but this for us is more of a growth potential company that we're looking at. After Savaria is two different renewable energy companies that we're invested in: TransAlta Renewables and Northland Power. TransAlta is a company that's been hit by high interest rates, as most utilities have been. And for me personally, I believe in the company still. They've had a few issues with one of their windmill farms cracking within the foundations, which took a negative impact onto their financial balance sheet. Hopefully moving forward, though, those issues are corrected and they can get back to the positive side with a higher stock price. I've taken a bit of a hit on this with the capital loss, but they have not cut their dividend. And both of these two, TransAlta and Northland, provide a monthly dividend. Personally, for me, I love all dividends, but getting them monthly is even better. If you think about a quarterly or an annual dividend payer, you're getting that chunk of money to be able to use for yourself or to be able to reinvest and buy more shares of any company with. For me, getting that monthly payment allows me to invest immediately. So if you think of getting your money every quarter, you're waiting every 3 months to get that money to reinvest or to use. If you're getting that money monthly, sure, it's potentially a little bit less. It's probably a little bit less, but you're able to reinvest that right away. So comparing monthly to quarterly, I've been able to invest 2 more times while waiting for that third month to come with the quarterly payment. Not a huge deal, but for us, I think it's something that I really enjoy. Much better getting our dividends monthly. Who doesn't like receiving money? Anyways, Northland Power, another utility, they've been kind of hit by just the market and the way things are happening. Very, very solid company, very solid financials. And the problem is that they're just getting beaten down because of the cycle that we're in. Great investment there. Again, this is not financial advice, but one that I'm looking to increase our positions in. The next two stocks are both real estate investment trusts. And for the most part, I look at these as income generators for us. There could potentially be an increase in the capital value of these two, but our target is to just use these as income vehicles. And when we talk real estate investment trusts, the first one, Northwest Health, is a real estate holder in the medical field. So medical offices, doctors' offices and such, this is what Northwest Health is all about. With the recent surge in telehealth and the need for telehealth through COVID, there is the potential that that may become an issue in the future. But my personal belief is we're always going to need doctors' offices, we're always going to need medical laboratories and hospitals for people to go to when sick. The same kind of concept can be used for Slate Grocery. Slate Grocery is the same idea, but in the grocery business. We're always going to need food. We're always going to need to go to places to get that food. Slate Grocery is a real estate holder for some of the largest U.S. grocery chains like Kroger's, and one of their biggest clients is Costco. So both of those two stocks, although being in real estate, I don't expect to create great wealth for us on a capital perspective. I do think from a monthly dividend perspective, I think they're both very solid. The next stock in there is probably what I would consider the sweetheart stock or my favorite stock, probably because it's the stock that's made the greatest return for both of my wife and I. Exchange Income Corporation is a company based in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And for us, based on the combined shares that we have in the various times that we bought, our current return with dividends on Exchange Income is 20.7%. This stock has done so well for us. The financials, if you look at them online, are all solid. They did struggle a little bit through COVID, but all of the forecasts and the potential for this company are all on the positive side. It pays monthly and it's 21 cents per share. The next stock is HYLD. HYLD is the only ETF that we both hold within our portfolio. And again, we look at HYLD as an income vehicle, as most people do. There is the opportunity there for some great capital growth, as it was trading over a year ago, or when it first came out, I guess, at the $15 or $16 range. And today that thing is down to $11.85. So there is the potential there for growth, but we're only looking at it as a vehicle to make us income monthly and allow us to buy more units, whether it be HYLD or other stocks that we have here in our portfolio. The next two stocks that I'm going to talk about are within the Canadian banking industry, and that's TD and Bank of Nova Scotia. TD is only in my wife's portfolio while we both hold Bank of Nova Scotia. The argument could be made that you could put any Canadian bank there and you would probably do well, and I don't disagree with that. But in looking at the two, I thought that TD and Bank of Nova Scotia had the greatest potential to give us a solid capital return along with the dividend. All Canadian banks give out a great dividend quarterly, and TD and Bank of Nova Scotia are no exception. But looking at how they've been hit, my personal opinion is that those hopefully will give us a better return of capital in addition to the dividend. So far, since we both began investing in these two banks, they're both right around just under 10% return when we include the dividend. So hopefully there's more room to go there as well. After the two banks, we have a couple of investments that we've both recently gotten or started into, but they are two massive Canadian corporations, and that's CN Rail and Canadian Tire. We both have our TFSAs with National Bank Direct Brokerage, but one of the things that they don't do, which we wish they did, is fractional buying. So that prompted me to open up an account with Wealthsimple. So we have a TFSA with both Wealthsimple and with National Bank. If you look at the trading prices of CN Rail and Canadian Tire, they're both over $160 for one share. The return via a dividend is solid on both companies and very, very attractive, but we don't always have $160 or $170 to just throw in to buy one share of a single company. That's where Wealthsimple came in, and I think it's a fantastic option. No fees, of course, with National Bank, but also no fees with Wealthsimple either. Wealthsimple's fractional buying allows you to put $10, $20, $50, $100, $1,000 into your account, And if you choose, you can say, I want to break up that amount of money. Even if it's $10, I can buy $2 worth of 5 different stocks. It might sound a little bit challenging or like you're not making much of an accomplishment. But what I like to do is throw $100 in from time to time just into that account and say, buy $50 worth of CN Rail and buy $50 worth of Canadian Tire. When the next dividend rolls around for CN Rail, I believe it's 79 cents per quarter. And when the next dividend rolls around for Canadian Tire, I think it's $1.725. So for one share of Canadian Tire, you're going to make $1.70 each quarter. Those little deposits of $50 and $100, they're certainly going to pay off over time. And of course, both have the great chance for capital appreciation as well. The next stock there is Manulife. Manulife is a stock that I've held for about 2 years, and for the longest time just sat stagnant and did next to nothing for me other than pay me a quarterly dividend, which was decent. However, in the last quarter, Manulife came out with their financials and an announcement of an 11% increase to their dividend. That caused the stock, which had already started on an upswing, caused the stock to actually even take a little bit of a jump higher, currently trading at $27.38. I'm glad that I held on to this because at one point I thought of maybe getting out of it and moving my money elsewhere, but that holding paid off for us. And Manulife, between the two of us now, is actually our highest return stock that we currently hold at 21.7% when you include the dividend payments to date. The next stock on our list is the one that needs no introduction. It's the Canadian dividend king, and that is Fortis. Fortis has been increasing their dividend for the last 50 years. And for us, as getting into close to coming into retirement income, increasing the dividend payments is a very good idea, a very good concept, and something we certainly want to look for when we look at retiring. The fact that Fortis is doing that is basically telling me anyways that we're going to keep this as a very solid portion of our TFSA portfolio when we move into retirement. It doesn't provide the greatest capital gains. However, since we've invested in it, we've made 4.42% between the two of us. Adding in the dividends, we've made 7.67%. So much better than a GIC, but not quite as good as any of the equities out there. Given where we're at, though, and the fact that my wife is already retired and I will be within the next 5 to 10 years, we're not looking for huge capital growth chances or equity. We're looking for solid income payers with the potential of some growth. And that kind of describes the next stock that I have on the list. If you look up at around 10 o'clock, the very small red sliver, a great company of potential with a dividend, although the dividend is quite small. And that's Alimentation Couche-Tard. They are the convenience store operator, the Circle K's. And in doing my research on this company, I saw that Alimentation Couche-Tard has 13,000 locations across North America. It's the second largest convenience store operator, only behind 7-Eleven. And they are in the process or have just recently made an acquisition, I believe it was in Arkansas, of Big Red. And there was about 45 locations throughout the state that they just acquired. So they're on a bit of a mission to acquire companies and get more and more locations across North America. So this is a company that, although they pay a dividend, it's quite small. It's less than 1%, 0.87, I believe, percent. It's only 14 cents per quarter, but the anticipation or the hope with Alimentation Couche-Tard is that they will return us a great capital return over time. The next company, TELUS, and TELUS is a huge player in the Canadian communications and telecom market, although they've also been expanding out into different business models. TELUS just announced as well an increase to their dividend. There was some speculation as to whether or not they would be able to pull this off because their last number of dividends, they've been paying out more, I believe 120% of their profits. But when you dig a little bit deeper, they also have been in a major expansion mode over the last few years. With the COVID crisis and the decrease in borrowing costs, TELUS, like many companies, took the opportunity to take that and use that money to increase their 5G network, among other things. So they have already announced, when they made their announcement of their dividend increase, that they would not be spending the same amount of capital, for capital projects moving forward. And that decrease in the commitment to their capital projects will allow them to then use less than their amount of profits for their dividend. So again, a big player already in the Canadian telecommunications market, and hopefully one that continues to grow capital-wise, but also a pretty decent dividend payer at the same time. And the last stock we're going to talk about is Algonquin Power and Utilities. Poor Algonquin got hit with heavy interest rates, and of course some bad news in their business of late has caused quite a drop from their stock, currently trading at $10.64. My wife has this in her TFSA. I don't have any in mine currently. But after the news came out and the stock dropped under $10, I thought it was a good opportunity to slightly increase the position to lower the average cost per share that she has. Personally, I think Algonquin is still a pretty decent stock. I think it's got a good future, perhaps a bad quarter, some questionable management decisions, which I don't really understand enough about. But we're not heavily invested in Algonquin, so I figured it was a good opportunity to average down in the last month or two, and we'll see what happens with them. I'm going to keep an eye on them. That could be a stock that we end up moving on from. And that's going to wrap it up. So that's all of our stocks. My plan on this channel is to potentially do a weekly video with this and discuss our holdings, where we may have increased or when we may have sold off some positions. And I'm planning as well to talk about the dividend payments that we get. One of the things that really excited about, as I said, we're in this for a little bit of growth, but we're also looking at dividends and in the future making this potential source of income for us. In 2021, I was the only holder of the TFSA in the family, and I brought in $643 in dividends with what I had in my TFSA. 2022 was a very good year. It was a year we were able to sell our house in the GTA area and move north and put a lot of money into our TFSAs out of that entire process. My wife actually got a good portion of her TFSA was started in mid to late October. So we really only had about 2.5 months of my wife getting into the TFSA. Our dividends increased from $643 in 2021 to $1,457 in 2022. Having said that, in 2023 now, the projection, all other things being considered, if we don't put any more capital investment into our TFSAs, and if we also don't reinvest any of the dividends that we get this year, we are currently slated, as long as there's no dividend cuts, the stocks we hold and the positions that we have, we're slated to receive $5,315 total between the two of us for this year. Of course, we're going to be reinvesting that money. That's where I spoke earlier about the monthly dividends being a great thing. And we're also planning on in putting in some capital of our own to add into that. So hopefully you're starting to see the benefit of compounding and reinvesting that money that you're giving back through dividends, as well as continuing to put in money into your TFSA. So we're going to follow that this year and see how that all pans out. Hopefully there's no dividend cuts in any of the holdings that we have. And if anything, there's a little bit of increase in some, which has already happened. So hopefully that 5,314 is a low figure. And when I'm talking to you in December, that it's much, much more. So that's going to wrap up the first video for our stock portfolio. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking around. If you hung out this long, much appreciated. Hit that subscribe button. And if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please throw them down in the comments area, and I will do my best to respond. Thanks very much. Take care.